So stay with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's not time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. First, let's have a peek through the Nation newspaper with a banner headline. Usually, Rivers CJ gives conditions to raise impeachment panel. My hand is fettered by the court orders. Next is the Platform Times. EFCC alleges massive fraud through Nigerian banks. Fintechs, over 200,000 victims reportedly conned via bogus investments. Investigations reveal 960 accounts controlled by a single fraudster. Next is This Nigeria. EFCC indicts fintechs, banks in 162 billion naira scams, accuses financial institutions of compromising banking procedures. Next is the Daily Independent. Shell eyes $20 billion investment in Nigeria after successful $7 billion deal. Tinubu orders incentives gazetting for Shell's Bonga Southwest project. Next is the Nigerian News Direct. Tinubu orders Shell to finalize Bonga Southwest FID within first term. And the Punch newspaper. Abductions. U.S. demands action. Federal government vows to track bandits. Ribadu meets U.S. envoys as Washington pressures Abuja on insecurity. Mother recounts giving birth in Kaduna kidnappers' hideout. Nigerian Tribune, Kaduna abduction. U.S. wants Nigeria to strengthen protection of Christians. Southern Kaduna Christian leaders declare two-day fasting over safe return of abducted worshippers. Southern Middle Belt Leaders Forum wants suspension, thorough investigation of police officials who denied abduction. Next is the Blueprint newspaper, still on insecurity. Nigeria-U.S. military partnership yielding operational fruits. NSA, Idris, we've made tremendous progress. That's according to U.S. Lords Nigeria over protection of Christians. And then after the Blueprint newspaper, we've got the Guardian newspaper. How port services, high cost, easy drug access, fuel addiction crisis. And we can help. Akure building collapse. Developers risk penalties for violating approvals. Although government blames collapse on use of substandard materials. And Daily Trust, leaders' verdict on Fourth Republic. And then last but not least is the Sport and Life. Indeed, the offer to Man United. Talk about the transfer expert Romano confirms. All right, then let's move on let's start off with the Nation newspaper with Rivers of politics. you see Rivers State CJ saying that he's not able to carry on with the impeachment, to raise impeachment panel because of what is cited as doctrine of lis pendens, meaning that there are cases in court already and they have to await the decisions of this court before it proceeds with what the House is expecting of him to do.
The CJ did the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, I commend him for that. And when I saw it, I remembered the Fayose Sega, you know, when the House of Assembly sacked the existing CJ and appointed another CJ. Yes, that CJ did whatever he was appointed to do. But after that, he was canned. For over 10 years, nobody heard about him. That's right. This CJ must have thought of that and said, no, I'm not going to get into this hole. And he did the right thing. I don't know why they are bamboozling the courts. So the whole thing there looks as if the House of Assembly is really desperate. We want this thing done. You have to follow due process.
Absolutely.
And I give him commendation.
Let's move on to the Platform Times because of our time. We have your mouthful today.
Yeah.
EFCC alleges massive fraud through Nigerian banks. Fintechs, over 200,000 victims reportedly conned via bogus investments. We understand that the Nigeria's economic team, they are looking at the central bank, for instance, ensuring that banks are well regulated by giving them the what's it called? What they should meet that cap for them to for the recapitalization. So the first tier 500,000, the second tier 200,000, third tier, which includes the fintech and also the microfinance 50,000 naira. But it's so sad to hear that there are some fintechs who are allowing even customers to hold as high as over 900 or 700 accounts, which is basically used for fraud to the amount to the tune of 160 million or thereabouts. Yeah,
and billion, that's a huge amount of money. But this is not the first time we're hearing things like this about.
Yeah, it's 162 billion.
Yes,
right.
This is not the first time we're hearing things like this about our fintech, and I feel like if we do not properly regulate, these institutions, we will continue having this conversation. It's an easy way now. People do not do cash again. A lot of fraud goes through so many bank transfer. You see, one person has about 10 accounts. What are you using the 10 accounts for? And these fintechs are the ones that are enabling the people to do stuff like this. So I think that with the CBN, we need to do a lot of regulations before you can own a fintech business. What are the things you're supposed to bring? Some of these people, you just wake up and you feel like you're a financial expert, and then you've opened a business. You cannot do the right thing, because then you will enable fraud, and that is what we're seeing. So for me, I feel like we need to be very, very, when it comes to regulation, it's something that we need to stamp our feet. What are the documents you are bringing? Who is this person? How credible is this person? Rather than so many fintechs we see over there, and all they're being used for is dubious things.
Absolutely.
I like what the EFCC is doing. I'm not going to lie. I am really, really, happy with what they're doing. It seems like they are taking the bull by the horn at this point, because this is a time that we see a lot of corruption, a lot of fraud, a lot of money laundering in Nigeria, and it's on them to make sure that we clear all of this.
Most
so I just hope that they're able to follow through with this.
That's
and
Yeah, so the same thing for this Nigeria. The EFCC indicts fintechs, banks in 162 billion naira scams, and one of these scams is the Fred and Farid Investment Limited, where over 200 Nigerians of approximately, they defrauded them of approximately 18 billion naira through bogus investment packages. I don't know.
The money is billions, not even millions.
They feel like, the next thing. I think I'm a victim of one. For instance, there is a video of mine.
I saw it. Me too.
Jumping
I
up
saw
and down.
it. It's so horrible, and I've said it so many times that it's not me.
So each time people send it to me, I just tell them, please report the page, and also report the post, because I do not understand. Someone said he has lost a whole lot of money. I just laughed when I saw it.
Because people are gullible, actually.
This headline, honestly, to me, it's less about scammers or scamming and the concept of fraud, and it's more about how prepared Nigerian financial institutions are to stop them. Now, Africa has one of the fastest growing digital finance spaces, and I think what happened is that Africa's digital mobile money and our fintech companies, they innovated faster than our fraud regulation. And so what's happening is that we have these amazing financial technology companies, but we don't have the infrastructure and the framework and the security framework to protect them, which means that we have a lot of money that is now a prime target for people who are exploiting the system, and that's a shame that we innovated faster than our fraud controls, and that's where the gap lies.
And I think a lot of people are also very gullible as well. Just talking about this trauma thing, I wonder, you can see that this thing is AI. And that's why we also say technology. I hope it doesn't end us at the end of the day, because some people are not even smart enough, because you're so gullible, you need money, you can't see that this thing is actually fraud. So that's something we need to look at as well. I've been saying this thing. We need to look deep into AI, actually.
A hungry stomach stops a lot of fluid from getting into the brains, So it may not be that people are gullible. It's just people are ignorant. I mean, it's
and greedy.
And greedy.
Because you can't be
promised
actually 100, 200% return in a day or 2 days or even a month or 3 months. What the hell? What kind of
even just the concept of digital literacy, you have to understand what a financial scam online
and you need to do your due diligence. Ask questions.
The word is due diligence.
My biggest worry is that regulation in every aspect of Nigerian life is very poor. We need to up our games when we come to regulation in the health sector, in the economy, in fintech, and so on. Regulation is a thing, and we have to start showing that there's consequence for bad behavior.
That's right. All right, then let's move on to the Daily Independent as well as Nigerian News Direct. They have the same headlines. Shell eyes $20 billion investment in Nigeria after successful $7 billion deal. Tinubu orders incentives gazetting for Shell's Bonga Southwest project. The same thing for Nigerian News Direct. Tinubu orders Shell to finalize Bonga Southwest FID within 10. But one thing is, people have been complaining about, the investment of this foreign business giants, coming into tapping our oil. And they say one of the reasons Nigeria has not developed, made proper use of its own natural resources is because we outsourced it and we allow these people to take our crude oil out and sell back to us the refined oil. Etoma, I love what the president is doing at this time, because if we are not on the table, we'll be on the menu.
I like that. Oh, well, That was then when we didn't have a 100% Nigerian refinery.
That's
now
right.
we do. So there's competition. Shell cannot come anymore and bamboozle everybody as it did before. And with the current developments in the oil industry, in the oil sector, Shell still made gains after investing 7 billion. And they say if one piece of yam is sweet, you want to try the second one, and the second one is going to be bigger. That's why they are looking at 20 billion. And Mr. President, being a sharp guy, is making things easy.
That's right.
For them. Come, let's have competition. Let's have more fuel. Let's let that sector be robust again. And the job opportunities that this will bring is something no government will want to ignore.
Absolutely. Let's move on to this Punch. I said this Punch. The Punch and the Nigerian News Direct, the same thing for Blueprint Newspaper, talking about our relationship, bilateral relationship with U.S. Collaboration against, in the fight against insecurity. U.S. demands action. Federal government vows to track bandits. Talk about the abductions. And then the Nigerian Tribune is saying Kaduna abduction. U.S. wants Nigeria to strengthen protection of Christians. The same thing for Blueprint Newspaper, saying Nigeria-U.S. military partnership yielding operational fruits. So, but there is a dangerous narrative that I see here, saying that U.S. want Nigeria to strengthen protection of Christians, and it has been established that it is not only the Christians, even those who do not even believe in the existence of God, has also been killed. Because by the time you send you throw bomb into the market, the bomb does not ask, hey, Ria, you're a Christian. Ibrahim, you're the Muslim. Let me just hit you. You understand? Or let me hit you because you're the Christian. I feel there is a dangerous narrative in the sense that the terrorists will see, okay, yes, there is a huge focus on the Christians. Why don't we belie the fight against us by attacking more churches? Do you not see that from that
I'd say something. The whole thing that happened in Kaduna, to me, I'll start with that, is actually a very, very sad one, because I spoke to people in Kaduna, and I tell you what, a lot of people may not be going to churches again because of the fear. Oftentimes we've heard, oh, there's a bomb blast in this church, abductions in this church. We rarely hear there's a bomb blast in the mosque or there are abductions in the mosque.
But it happened during the Christmas Eve. Even the station also reported
it happens.
On Christmas Eve, rather than mentioning that it happened in the mosque.
I know it happens, but we hear more about these churches. So these churches have now become very, very delicate. We saw that, Ubasani was there quickly to speak to them. But for me, it goes beyond that. Even these visits to sympathize with your family and all of that, it goes way beyond that. I think, how are we protecting these people? When US says Christian, I do not believe that a human being is a human being. At the end of the day, we're serving one God, regardless of which religion you find yourself. So I always find a problem with, oh, they're killing Christians, they're killing people. If we're able to crop out this insecurity in Nigeria, then we will not hear US telling us that, Christians are dying and, Muslims are being left out. It's a sad one. We've seen what happened in Kaduna. Where is it going to happen next? My friend in Kaduna was telling me that, Ria, it has happened here. I'm scared from the neighboring villages. Where is it going to happen next? And we cannot keep putting our people. One of the guys told me, he said, Ria, I cannot cry anymore. When you hear things like this, your heart broken. These are the people that just lose faith in Nigeria.
Absolutely. Olamide, and it's also dangerous that we had the police, say, denying the abduction of over 170 worshippers, or 160, let me just put it at that. At first, and then you also have the local government chairman saying the same thing, and they came back and said, we just didn't want to create panic. Panic has already been created.
What do you mean? Now, mistrust has been created.
Yes, that is very, very troubling, and we constantly wonder why this narrative about a Christian genocide taking place in the country is so rampant. It's because the police denied something, and the only other credible source that could say people were actually abducted was the Christian Association of Nigeria. So you have the Christian Association of Nigeria being the voice and being on ground when things like this are happening, and then the Nigerian police, on the other hand, denying that it ever happened. We saw yesterday that the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Rubadu, he welcomed the US terror squad, and they said they're going to be in joint action for a terror push. We will see how that goes. If the US is truly willing to help us, it will rely on intelligence, it will rely on firepower, it will rely on helping us with technology.
Absolutely.
We also saw yesterday that President Trump inaugurated the Board of Peace at the World, the Board of Peace, and he wants it to take the place of the UN.
I think that board is actually the Board of Chaos.
Yes,
in all fairness, you cannot invite Netanyahu to that Board of Peace, and also the number of people that are in the Board of Peace. These are the same people who have been funding genocide.
But what I found interesting is that on that world stage, he still mentioned Nigeria. He said Nigeria, the terrorists there, we're going to wipe them out. On the world stage, this is the President of the United States pushing that narrative. And
when you see the arsonist coming as a firefighter, then we know what is on the table.
Interesting analogy.
But then let's move on to the Guardian newspaper. How poor services, high cost, easy drug access fuel addiction crisis. They are blaming, addiction crisis, drug, whatever, how people misuse it, on the lack of proper infrastructure to, for health facilities and all of that. So much so that people find it difficult to, when the doctor tells you you're going to buy this certain amount of drug, you have to run away because you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And then you get used to the one that you feel this will just be, just suppress it for me for the time being. And then that leads to addiction. So meaning that they are blaming it on the government failure in terms of providing proper health infrastructure for the nation.
No matter who they are blaming, the truth about it is that drugs, real drugs, are very expensive.
That's
and
right.
they are away from the reach of the common man. But when I read that headline, I wasn't looking at medical drugs. I didn't think of medical drugs. I was thinking of illicit drugs. When there's hunger,
because codeine is not meant to be it's not meant to be bad. It's meant to be. I don't know how
people now take it to sleep,
so
and people now take it to
those
get them high.
prescription drugs
exactly,
that when you take for a time, you get addicted to them. They are even more dangerous than the colos and the rest that we are talking about. And when the situations are made in such a way that access to real good medical care, access to food, to jobs, to everything is difficult, people go there.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
just to forget
let
for
me
a
just
while,
say
and
this
it's
quickly
unfortunate.
for the diabetes patients. I feel like the federal government needs to really do something. The amount of drugs for people to buy, the people that have diabetes, is quite alarming. People cannot buy anymore. People are now looking for remedies to make sure that their sugar goes down. And we may see a lot. There's a big crisis with this particular one. So
all right. Let's skip on to the Daily Trust because of our time. Leaders' verdict on Fourth Republic. So see, this is the Fourth Republic dispensation we are in. After the first, second, and third, and people saying that politicians, we have Bukola Saraki, Atiku Abubakar, all of them, talking about Nigeria has not essentially gotten to that pedestal where we're supposed to be because they blame it on lack of continuity. Because government's supposed to be a continuum. They blame it on corruption. In fact, they use the word prebendalism and state capture, where people want to feather their nest using personal aggrandizement. So how would you just see Nigeria as we are now, despite all of the maybe military interregnum, military incursion, whatever it is, up until now, are we there where we're supposed to be?
When we look at the evolution from the First Republic, I believe that's right after the colonial masters, Second Republic, Third Republic, we have more failing systems than we did in the first three republics.
Yes.
When we look at I'll just take one small example. Look at how people from the First and Second Republic spoke. Their addiction. Look at the quality of lives they lived, the cars they drove, how they were able to afford houses and schooling and healthcare, how they traveled.
And the fact that there was an ideology.
There was an ideology. There was a Nigerian ideal that we all strove to. And then I ask you to look at the community of today, and you have your answer.
Ria, Ghana, for instance, was also mentioned. They tried to make comparisons, and they said Ghana, for instance, actually, I think was the first to gain independence.
Yes.
Yeah. So they said at least Ghana too, fall short of leadership and all of that. Even though they are derailed from the 1992 ideal constitution, especially blaming the current administration that they are citing economic mismanagement and betrayal of that constitutional ideals.
So for me, not to be biased, I would say, but that was the last administration. That was the NPP administration.
No, they're actually talking about the 2025 to 2026.
So for the new president we have in Ghana now, he's been doing a fantastic job. He just got into power, and this is not being. I'm NDC. Everybody knows I'm an NDC person, and I feel like he came to repair. I feel like he came to repair what Nana Akufo-Addo had damaged. So for economy now, I think Ghana is actually doing really well. Things are still quite expensive, but we're getting there. Before Kenke was about 2-3 cities, but now we're buying Kenke for 5 cities. But we're getting there.
Purchasing power in Ghana is not
it's not
friendly.
We're getting there. Actually,
all right,
I'll say
your thoughts on this very quickly.
Yes, the First Republic was the best. I would say, I mean, it was the best.
When we had regional government,
they
said we should go back to the 1963 Republican, constitution.
My reason for saying that is very simplistic. It was about the people. It wasn't about the politicians.
Yes.
And it seems now it's not about the people anymore.
To gain that independence in the first place.
Right now, it's about the politicians.
Yeah. And it should be about the people. I feel like that is now where the problem is.
Our view of leadership has been very skewed over the years.
And our leaders now, they are not being held accountable.
I think this is a very important topic, and I think you guys should actually look at that, in depth. Tomorrow, God willing. All right, then, last but not least, Ndidi offered to Man United. Talk about the transfer. Expert Romano confirms. So because of our time, director is saying we should go now. That's about it for the newspapers up for review.